In a last-minute attempt to stop the government from ever delivering for their constituents, Kevin McCarthy gave a massive speech last night. It was 8.5 hours long. He didn't stop until after 5 a.m., which broke the record for the longest House floor speech in the modern era. His speech was longer than the entirety of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I found it far less compelling. It was pretty random, though. It went to some weird places. We want to show you just a couple of little excerpts. Here's the first.
You're celebrating it when inflation is at a 31% hike. Gas prices, Thanksgiving, a border that in a few months breaks every record of the last 3 years combined.
I'm also excited for Thanksgiving, but I don't understand what that had to do with it. But anyway, that at least sounded kind of like it was addressing the substance. He did say the word inflation after all, but he found time for a lot of weird stuff too. Look at this.
I can look anywhere I want, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I cannot believe the amount of control one-party rule wants. They now want to dictate to a member of the floor of where I can look? Are you afraid of the basis of the information in the bill? Sir, I'm gladly to look at you, Mr. Speaker. There's a difference between addressing and looking. I know one-party rule wants to control every element of our lives.
Yeah, so there's more than 200 Republicans in the House, and that is their leader. That is the best of them.
Yeah, he spoke for 8 hours. He wanted to break Nancy Pelosi's record. She's spoken for a little over 8. He got to about 8.5. Who cares? So he said nothing of note. Here, I'll read you one of Representative Jamie Raskin's tweets. He said, "It's a feat of epic proportions to speak for 4 hours straight," and that was only halfway through at that time, "and not produce a single memorable phrase, original insight, or even a joke. McCarthy thinks he's a wit, but so far he has proved he's only half right." Now, see, that's clever, half wit. So McCarthy had none of that. Look, this is not a substantive point. I think he literally sounds ridiculous. And when he then whines in a nonsensical way for 8 hours straight, and now we have Thanksgiving. Like, it doesn't make his ridiculous voice sound any better. It just makes it doubly worse. And there was like, guys, the main takeaway is no substance. How could you speak for 8.5 hours and not even like enrage us? like you would think that he would say something of note where we'd be like, oh, well, that talking point is incorrect, or that's not right, or, oh, you know what? I don't agree with that policy position. What is their Republican policy position? So he's speaking against Build Back Better. Did he talk about, oh, paid family leave sucks, I don't want anybody to have it? Lower drug prices is terrible, I want higher drug prices. I'm glad they took out community college, I don't want any of you guys to get educated. If you do, you might not vote for Republicans. Did he say anything of substance about the actual policy and what Republican proposals are? No, because they have no proposals, they have no policy. All they have is culture war. Hey, we're white, all you white folks, vote for us. We're not gonna do anything for you, we're just gonna give more tax cuts to the rich. But hey, at least we're white. Wow, how compelling. That is the leader of the Republicans in the House, Morgan.
But the thing is, but they're winning, right? And so, I mean, I want to join in the mockery, but the problem is it's working. And so in order to actually do something about this, we don't waste time negotiating with them. We cannot elect corporate Democrats that are willing to come down and compromise. I mean, let's look at insulin, for example, that you pointed out. Yes, $35 cap, big impact. But you know what the average price is that other people across this globe are paying? $10, because it's a 100-year-old drug. So let's stop wasting time on these people. We have to figure out what's our agenda. And then again, talk to people about it, make our case for why we are different, why they should believe in us. Why aren't we just as crazy? We have allowed them to just completely dominate, and we have to get out there and give a real alternative that is compelling.
Yeah, exactly. Like you need to be able to run on contrast, and the contrast has been minimized. Now, you have him and over 200 Republicans who do not believe that the government should ever do anything. Their policy position is that on policy, they're against it. And you only need policy to solve problems. They represent the wealthiest people in the country. They have no problems. The only potential problem they have is their taxes going up. So we need to make sure that people understand that, because the people do not agree with them on any of the substance. But we also, as Morgan said, need to deliver. And assuming that something passes, they will, but it'll have been slower than it needed to be. We went through endless months of negotiation only to produce a worse bill, and every component of it is weaker than it could have been. So what gets through will help to address people's problems, but less than it might have. So we could have had an amazing contrast. It could have been 6 months ago they could have passed this thing, and they could have demonstrated, look, you went through 4 years of Trump. What did they do? They built a bit of wall, they banned a religion, and that was pretty much it. Oh, they also caged some kids. That's true. Now you bring in Biden, we pass COVID aid, and then a couple of months later, we protect American democracy, and then we pass this social spending bill. They could have done that. They did not do that. They didn't have the leadership in the party, and there were so many status quo Democrats that had no interest in any of this happening that they just slowed down the process, stripped away what made it popular. And that makes it so much more difficult to both actually solve the problem and to maintain your hold on power. Why would the people support them next year if this is all they can deliver at this pace, shrunk down so much?
So last thing for me, at least on this, what can progressives get 8 hours on the floor of the House to show you all the polls that indicate that every provision in this bill is intensely popular, including with Republicans, including in red states? Can they show the monsters of the right wing who oppose every popular provision that actually helps the American voter? Can we do that? No, we're not gonna do that. They're gonna speak for 8 hours and the Democrats are gonna be mute. Well, if one side doesn't fight, to Morgan's point, we have no chance of winning. We have no chance of winning if our side doesn't fight back forcefully. You can give that 8 hours, you can split it up among people, give it to AOC, give it to Katie Porter, give it to Jamie Raskin, give it to Jamal Bowman, let them go to work, right? Where we have policy.
Well, and better yet, or hit the streets, talk about this, go to some real people, right? I mean, how many people are sitting around watching what anybody in Congress is talking about on the Hill? No, we've got to go to where the people are at. That is how we win. We cannot continue to play that game. We are losing this game because they are making a mockery of government. They don't care, and we have to get directly to the people. That is the only way that we'll have any credibility. And at the heart of it is also, to what John was saying, being as different as possible in the sense of not being corporate Democrats, not taking money from big pharma. If you're really about everybody having insulin and not dying because of a medical condition they have no control over, then you don't take money from big pharma and you fight like hell to make sure that insulin is free. This is what we can be, but only if we start electing people who actually care to fight for it.
Yeah, so Morgan's running for Senate in Ohio and she's not taking corporate PAC money, and obviously that makes a giant difference. And there are other Democrats who are, and they will not be able to fight Republicans. They can't say, hey, why did you take the drug money and vote for higher drug prices? Oh, right, oops, you took the drug money too. Morgan's not taking any of that money, morganharper.org. Last two things here, Kevin McCarthy did only make one piece of news there. He said that if the Republicans retake the House, they're gonna give committee assignments back to Paul Gosar and to Marjorie Taylor Greene. So the worst people in Congress, they're going to elevate, and Democrats again just can't figure out a way to combat it, oppose it, etc. And I'll give the last word to Jamie Raskin, who is a progressive and who is one of the smarter members of Congress and fights back in his own way. He said, I must admit, Kevin McCarthy has accomplished one thing. America is no longer woke. So after
That's not bad. I mean,
after an 8.5 hour incredibly dull speech, that is a fair conclusion. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.